What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dimmy Reads Comics. Today we're going to do a review of Basketful of Heads. At first I thought it was Basketful of Heads, but it's actually one word, Basketful of Heads. Anyway, Basketful of Heads, hardcover edition. Now what's kind of weird is I didn't see any trade paperbacks of this, even though there's 7 issues. I didn't see any deluxe editions of this. It's just this hardcover. So anyway, it is published by DC Black Label. I want to show you that in the front because it doesn't have it in the back. It just says DC, or in the spine, it just says DC. It has 184 pages and has issues 1 through 7. And it is written by Joe Hill, artist by Leomacs. It just says Leomacs. I don't even know if that's his first name or last name. But anyway, Leomacs. Additional pencils by Ricardo Labella, colorist Dave Stewart, letters by Deron Bennett, collection cover artist Riiko Murakami, and created by Joe Hill. It does have sewn binding, as you can see there. And let's go ahead and take off the dust jacket. I don't really like this dust jacket. It's kind of, it almost reminds me of wax paper. This one's really weird. I don't really like it whatsoever. Usually when I get a new book, I kind of wipe it down with Clorox, and this wax paper didn't do too good with that. So I'm hoping once I actually put them in between my books and leave it there for a while, that it'll get straightened out. But yeah, this kind of waxy dust jacket just doesn't do it. Anyway, I'm going to set this to the side. There we go. And look at Basketful of Heads. See, I like this, the glossiness of it. And as you can see here, it does say DC Black Label, Basketful of Heads. There's a spine with nothing and the back with nothing. Now, if you do open it, it does have a kind of a full image, which plays into the story of this. So, actually, let me do that again. Now that I kind of really looked at it, it's just the main character with the axe, if you guys can see that. I thought it was something different, but no. Anyway, let's go ahead and crack this open. It's kind of hard to talk about this story because, like, the first 4 issues, maybe 5 issues, there's a lot of who done it, this and this and that, and then at the end there's a big twist. So I can't really talk about the end, but I'll do my best to talk about the story in itself, what's going on, and go from there. So let's go ahead and crack this open. Alrighty, guys. Let's go ahead and crack open this Basketful of Heads. As you guys can see, there is Basketful, not Basketful. I don't know why it's like that. But anyway, here's the end page, which I kind of like that drawing. I don't know what it's about, why it's like that. I had my thoughts about it, but I saw the second book because I actually already relaxed the spine on the second book, and it's the same way. So I don't know if it has anything to do with that. Anyway, so here's the title page, Basketful of Heads, and then the credits page. And then we jump right into Basketful of Heads. So you got the main character here with the axe, a basket, there's some heads in there, and then the American flag on top of it. That all gets explained. So this is kind of a short epilogue, but it is still part of chapter 1 or issue 1. Where you see this character in the rain jacket holding the basket with the American flag and an axe, walking on the bridge, stops, and then she stops, puts the stuff on the railing, and then she gets stopped by a certain character. You eventually find out who these characters are, actually. And then we jump to issue 1. As you can see here, Basketful of Heads with the one in the hands showing a number 1 for issue 1, and then the axe. So before, like I said, that was the epilogue. That was like towards the end of what happens in the whole story. So this is before. We don't get introduced, but we see this girl on that same railing I was just talking about. This takes place in Brody Island, Maine, and you see a cop come up. At first, and this is in September 1983, they start talking to each other, and then you find out they have kind of this relationship. Supposedly, they've been dating for a while. This girl was off in college somewhere, and he was doing a summer job, as well as, as you can call it, I guess you can call it a part-time sheriff, or a deputy. And what's funny about that is when he's a deputy, because he's only a part-time summer deputy, They don't give him a gun, they just give him a nightstick. But anyway, you find out that they've been dating for a while. You find out that their names are June Branch and Liam Ellsworth. And they're kind of just talking to each other. They miss each other, they kiss each other. And as you can see down here, June was kind of looking at all the trash down here on the river. How it's trashy down there, but with like the certain kind of light, it actually makes it look beautiful, which is kind of weird. But anyway, so they start driving down into the city, and it's right here where we kind of learn their names. They're talking about their feelings with each other. June wants to buy a car and kind of start a life with Liam, but he's kind of almost saying like he doesn't have money to do that, the investment to do it. Eventually, you find out why. But anyway. So they're kind of driving. She thinks she kind of messed up asking for that. She's moving too fast. But anyway, eventually they make it to the city. They're still talking about the bridge, and Liam tells you why he didn't like June being on the railing of the bridge, because during the summer he saw this girl. He didn't see this girl, but he went to a call that this girl had jumped from the bridge. So supposedly she had a backpack on full of rocks, and she jumped so she can go into the river and sink down. But unfortunately, the river was low at the time, so she didn't hit the river, she hit the rocks. And he actually saw this. And so when they're talking about it, they eventually pull up to this place right here, where there was this work crew of detainees working, and supposedly 4 of them got away. As you can see here, some of these deputies, you don't know their name, but they play a big part of this story. And this guy right here, Hamilton, actually plays a big part of the story as well. And so they're talking about the people that got, the escapees that got away. You get introduced to this Hamilton mayor guy. You get introduced to the main sheriff, which his name is Wade Clausen. And eventually you find out that these escapees ran away. Liam and June are supposed to go over to the sheriff's for dinner, and the sheriff's like, hey, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and go to my house with my wife and son, and just tell her to keep a hot plate open, warm. I'll be there shortly, after I round up these 4 escapees. So that's what Liam and June do. They go to the sheriff's house. They meet up with Miss Clausen and their son, Hank. His name is Hank. You actually don't find out his name is Hank until a little bit later, but they kind of introduce each other. June kind of walks through the house and sees the collection of artifacts here. These artifacts are given to Wade Clausen, the sheriff, by his wife every anniversary, and one of them in particular is this axe. This axe plays a big part in this story. So anyway, they go out and they have kind of like a small little dinner. You get introduced to Gabby, I guess you can say the maid, but they send her off for the night. They go in, they get a phone call, and Ms. Clausen goes inside, talks to the husband. The husband tells her that she needs to go to some guy's apartment, or to some female's apartment, because the husband got killed. So she needs to be there for the other female emotionally. And the sheriff also tells Liam that he needs to stay at his house, at the sheriff's house, to hold down the fort. When that happens, so now Liam and June are going to stay at the sheriff's house, and Hank is going to take his mother to the other female's house to kind of, I guess, be there emotionally. So that's what happens. Liam and June are watching the movie. They hear something. They think somebody's inside the house. So Liam tells June to go upstairs and hide in the master bedroom to figure things out. And that's when you find out that there's 2 escapees in the house. And that's where issue 1 kind of ends. So then in the next issue, you see that one of the guys goes into the master bathroom, looks in the tub. There's nobody there, and we find out that June's been hiding in a dirty laundry hamper. She was in there at 9:50, and by the time she got out in issue 2, it's 11:50. So she was in there for 2 hours. She eventually gets out, starts walking around, and goes back into the artifact, museum room, and she sees a whole bunch of blood. She sees a cabinet there that's been broken with the axe, and she sees a finger, and she thinks and knows that it's Liam's. So right when that happens, one of the escapees shows up. She grabs an axe. They talk a little bit. She's like, let me go, let me go. And he pulls out a gun, and she kind of trips and falls, but she gets away. While that's happening, we see that there's two islands. There's the main island, and then there's a small island going to the biggest. I mean, I guess you can call it the main island over here, and two other islands. There's a big storm coming in. One of them loses power because of this, and it knocks out the bridge, and then they both lose power. When that happens, like I said, June keeps running away and eventually hides behind these rocks. And when he comes down, you can see the basket here. She chops off his toes. He falls on the ground. He points the gun, chops off his fingers with the gun, and then she chops off his head. Boom. She kind of sits there for a while, sees the gun, goes and jumps for the gun, but it gets washed away. And then this is where it starts getting kind of weird. Then somebody's talking upside down, and we find out that it's the head that she just chopped off. Why is this head still alive? Why is it like, isn't it supposed to be dead? And so she kind of gets scared and runs away. This is where I don't like the story, where it starts going. What I mean by that is, if it was a regular person running away, like, you just chopped off somebody's head, right? You ran away because you're scared, because that head shouldn't be still talking. She comes back and grabs the head. Well, she comes back with the basket, empties the basket, picks up the head and puts it in there. Like, I wouldn't do that. I would hella run away. Like, what the F? Nuh-uh. This is some crazy stuff. But eventually her and the head, and here you eventually find out that escapee wasn't actually an escapee. It was another deputy. So then you're like, okay, so what happened to the escapees? This is where it starts kind of turning into a murder mystery. In chapter 3, she kind of sits there with the head, and there's a lot of explanation going on as to why they. What's weird is his name is Salvatore Puzo, and they kind of talk back and forth about Liam, about why they went into the house to try to get him. I don't want to kind of give that away as to why they're doing it, but she has kind of a long talk with him, even though later on we find out that it's a lie. But she eventually does find out that that girl that had jumped, in her backpack, it wasn't rocks, it was money. And Liam saw this money, and instead of reporting it in, he might have kept some of it. And so now June is kind of thinking, is this true? I mean, she doesn't want to believe this Salvatore Puzo guy or not, but it is kind of suspicious. So eventually she gets the head, puts him in the basket, cuts down the American flag, puts it over, goes inside the house, tries to go to the gun rack, and the guns are missing. Tries to use the phone, the phones are cut off. He even says that he cut off the phone lines. So she starts walking, and she meets up with another person. And that person is that Hamilton mayor guy, but he's already drunk. He doesn't really know what's going on, but at the same time, he does, actually. He offers to give her a ride, and when he's giving her a ride, she's cold. She puts on one of his jackets. They eventually come across this tree that fell over on the street, and the guy's like, you know what, we should probably turn around. She's like, no, you know what, I'm going to get my axe, and I'm going to break it down, chop it up into pieces. Hamilton's like, you know what, I should help you. He gets a chain, and he eventually sees the head in the basket. And things kind of turn, and before that happens, her back's turning a little bit. She kind of reaches into her pocket and sees the wire snippers. And she sees that she thinks to herself, okay, they used those wire snippers on Liam. And that's what happened. So they get into a big fight right here. And eventually what happens in the next issue, she wakes up, they have a fight, and she chops off his head. And you get a little bit more story into this with this Hamilton guy. She puts that head into the basket with Salvatore, and then she ends up heading back to town, and where she goes to the police station and meets up with Hank. She talks to Hank a little bit about what's going on, about, maybe Liam being a certain type of person, and it goes into a deep story right here on what's going on. He offers her to get changed out of her wet clothes and locks her in the cell, because he's part of what's going on too. In a nutshell, they think that the three people so far that's been working together aren't the escapees. They're actually part of the town, and they're trying to find a tape because they think Liam's a rat for the FBI. And they eventually find out that, see, this is where it kind of gets, I can't really go into any further into the story, but eventually we find out that the town's dirty. Most of the sheriffs and the deputies and the mayor are dirty, and certain things happen. And she goes and tries to save Liam from the people that have him captive. The people that have him captive aren't the escapees. They're other individuals, thinking that he has a tape against them. They all think they have a tape against each of them individually, and that isn't even the case. Like, there's a big twist and turn about this at the end, and I don't want to go too much more into it because it would spoil it more and more. That being said, though, I do want to say that there's not really a happy ending for Liam and June, but there's not even there's not even really a happy ending for June. It's just the ending of the story is kind of like, damn, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see this coming. Like, I'm going to put this here so you guys can, maybe want to read it at the end. What happens? Did she save Liam? Did she not save Liam? Did she find out exactly what happened to the escapees? Did she find out who the main corporate of these guys, of the deputies, who are they working for? Did she bring them down? Did she escape? She does escape eventually, and it goes back to, she does escape from the jail cell, and she does end up chopping off Hank's head, by the way. That's another one. So by the time she chops off Hank's head, she finally knows who the main dude is, where he's at, and where Liam's being held captive. But going towards the end of the book, here we go. At the end of the book, we actually go back to the first part of the book where she's at the bridge. It was her the whole time. It was June. She gets there. She wasn't going to jump, but she eventually talks to the person, and we find out that it's Gabby, the maid from the Coulson's house. And she's like, whatever you plan on doing, I know about the girl that jumped. We find out a little bit backstory about who that girl was and why she jumped and things like that. Like I said, that's kind of a really big murder mystery. And she eventually throws the axe into the river with the three heads. And she also does something with the main captor of Liam, and we also find out what happens to Liam. And at the end of the day, we do eventually find out that she throws the axe into the river, like I said. And the reason I want to put that in there is because there is a sequel to this book called Refrigerator Full of Heads. It isn't written by Joe Hill, but we do find out that the axe is still in the river and somebody finds it. It starts a different story. Now, I do like this story a lot, but it kind of, in a sense, it doesn't make sense. We get a small, like, the main captor, how do I say this? There's a certain individual that kind of explains where this supposedly axe came from. Supposedly the axe was used to cut down Yggdrasil in the Norse mythology when supposedly they hung Odin from a tree. This was used to cut him down, and instead of bringing death, it brings life. That's why the heads were still alive. Supposedly, that was even the guy said it himself. It's a myth. So is it true or not? I don't know. It doesn't explain that. That's one thing I didn't like about this. I'm going to be flipping through the cover pages while I'm still talking about it. Another thing is like, yeah, the people that I guess you can say that cut off her head, she was kind of protecting herself, but she kind of went on a murder spree with it. Even at the end, it's kind of like, okay, this is too much. You're just going too much with it. There's no need for all that, right? This is just some kind of sketches and small interviews with the creators. And other than that, like, it does explain why they were going after a certain individual, why they went after Liam, why they kind of went after her, the whole setup, the whodunit type of thing. What was weird is you already kind of figured who would have done it, but at the end of the day, there was another big twist, which was interesting. but it's just it just the whole thing didn't kind of really connect in a sense. Like, what the heck? This is, I don't know. The story, I guess, was too short to put in more information to where I really clicked with it in my sense. And at the end of it, we got the end page and the back of the book. So anyway, guys, that's the review. Like I said, there is a lot of twists and turns. I'm not going to tell you who the main captor was, why they were doing it. I'm not going to tell you what happens to Liam, and I'm not going to tell you who the snitch was for the FBI. That's all you guys can find out for yourselves on this, but that's pretty much the main story of Basketful of Heads. Now let's go ahead and do the review, and hopefully you guys think my review or not the review, but the rating, and hopefully you guys like the rating that I give. Alrighty, guys, so before I do the rating, let's do a quick recap of this. This is Basketful of Heads hardcover edition, published by DC Black Label, 184 pages and collects issues 1 through 7, and it does have sewn binding. All that being said, guys, what do I give this as a rating? I kind of want to give it a high 2 and a low 3. Like, I'm going to give it a 3, and I'll tell you why, but it's a 3, like a low 3. I enjoyed the story. It was very interesting. The art was very beautiful. It does explain kind of everything, but it kind of just throws you in. And the story is kind of too small. Like, we don't even know who, like, we know who Hamilton is, but we get introduced to Hamilton in the beginning, but not too much about him. Like, you don't really know that's Hamilton at all. We just know he's the mayor. And then later on, it's like, oh, you're the Hamilton guy, right? You're the so-and-so. And that's one. Salvatore Puzo, we don't even know who he is until, like, later on when he says his name. Like, it would have been cool if we got introduced to him, his name in the beginning, to be like, oh, I know who that guy is, right? Same with, we got introduced to Hank. But those two, I guess, Hamilton and Salvatore Puzo. As far as why they were going after Liam, it makes sense because they thought he was the rat for the FBI. But as far as what happened to Liam and between him and June at the end, that part didn't make sense to me at all. I'm not going to talk about what happened to them, but that part did not make sense to me. Like, why did you even do that? So that part didn't make sense to me. The small little rumor in the book of what the axe is in itself, maybe they could expand it on that a little bit more. Maybe they're going to do it more in the other book. Who knows? And the big twist at the end was kind of like a cop-out for some reason. I was just like, really? That's kind of like, it was like a twist in the twist. So while the story was interesting, it was entertaining. I love the art. The facial expressions were, great. Because there's some artists out there that when they draw and they're supposed to do facial expressions, there's some people that are just not there. These ones have great facial expressions. Like, let me see if I can find one real quick. Look at this one. This facial expression, there we go, of her is so amazing. Now, one thing I do want to kind of put out there real quick is, yeah, this is actually the main character is a girl, right? But why do they make the girl so, like, sexualized? Like, they give her cut off shorts, like she's in shorts, she's almost like completely, and she's in a tank top throughout the whole story. Like, why do they do that? Like, I guess they're comic books, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, they have her feet showing on the first couple pages. Like, come on now. I don't know why they do that. So anyway, yeah, I'm giving this a low 3. Just because I think they could have gone a little bit more into detail. It could have been a little bit longer. And some things weren't fully explained great. And then at the end, I felt like it was just kind of rushed for me. So I'm giving this a low 3. Depending on how I like Refrigerator Full of Books, it is a direct sequel to it, even though it's not written by Joe Hill. Depending on how I like that one, if that one's still a low 3 and or a 2, I am not keeping these. For now, if this was a book by itself and there was nothing more, I might keep this and give it one more read, but it's on the low end. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I'm probably not going to keep either of them. Actually, I'm probably going to sell both of them, considering the fact, even if there are 3, because if I do a reread of them, I might just read them online, if that makes sense, because I need to make more room for, more books to come in and read. So yeah, that's it. I'm giving it a 3 for sure, but it's a 3. It's a low 3 for sure. And that being said, when I read the other one, I'll give you guys a rating for both of them and what I think. But it's a low 3. I'm not keeping them. I'm getting rid of them just so I can make more room. And if I do a reread eventually, I'll probably end up reading it online and probably not post a video about it. So anyway, guys, I hope you guys like this video. If you guys did, leave a like. If you guys read this book and read the other one, let me know what you guys think in the comments if you guys liked the video or not. I would take recommendations, but as of right now, I'm not taking any whatsoever until probably in the next 6 months. That way I can sell some stuff and make more room. That being said, guys, if you guys haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate everybody that's been liking, watching, subscribing, and commenting on my videos. It really helps build my channel up. So that being said, I really, from the deep down bottom of my heart, I appreciate you guys doing all that for me. That being said, guys, you guys take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys on the next one.